You ready to do this, Nathan?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Punch it, Chewie. Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Nathan Thomas.
How's it going tonight, Spencer?
It's going well. We're just two nerds. We refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 83, the year Return of the Jedi came out, by the way.
Yay!
We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by, relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Nathan Thomas, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while. How are you?
Oh, I am doing just peachy good, sir. It has been a little bit of a time period, but I was excited for the opportunity to come and speak with you once more tonight. I did actually get a chance to go do something nerdy today. I took the day off from work and I went and saw a movie at noon, which is weird for me. But
really? What did you see?
I saw Jurassic World.
Really?
I did. I'll save my thoughts on that for possibly later. But it was kind of fun just to take a day off from work. I haven't done that in forever, and go see a movie at noon with nobody else in the theater, pretty much, and have a private screening almost as it was. It was fun.
I think the last time I saw a movie, like in the middle of the day, I was working a summer sales job and I was not doing well. And my old co-host, Steve Madura, who you remember, him and we took a day off. It was like a random Tuesday, and we saw Pearl Harbor in the movie theater. And that was a unique experience. I remember being in there with like no one else. And then we went to an Arby's, and there was a Japanese family sitting next to us, and it was a little awkward. I mean, I don't know why, but this was like, I don't know, 2003, 2004, somewhere around there, but I felt awkward in an Arby's. So go figure.
I mean, I'm always awkward in my Arby's, so.
It's the new commercials now. I mean, that's really ratcheted it up, I think. So it was the boom, 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 Arby's, we bring the meats.
But I do have to say, Arby's has got it really good on the social side with that, with their gaming related advertisements. They always have like the Triforce with the little triangle things, and they also have all kinds of video games that they feature. So they do a pretty good job with that social side. Yeah,
it's just those commercials. The guy's voice and some, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But that's cool. So middle of the day movie watching. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to have to do that again soon.
Yeah, it was good to get that matinee pricing too. So I didn't feel so bad for the ticket price.
That's what Movie Pass is for, brother.
Oh, I know. I don't see movies nearly often enough to take advantage of that, though.
Well, yeah, there is that. But at $10, I mean, movies around here are typically like $10, and then you get like the convenience fee for doing it online and whatnot. And by the time it's all done, it's like $12. So I figure if I go once a month, I'm okay. But yeah, that's just me. So you did something nerdy today. What else is new? I mean, you are all over the map. You are a podcast extraordinaire. That's entertaining. PSVG. What's been going on in the podcasting world for you lately?
So we are continuing on That's Entertaining, our monthly shows. We'll probably do it actually with Lucas, is a show on Jurassic World, hopefully releasing this week. Just waiting for him to use his movie pass to go check it out.
Nice.
And then we also on PSVG have been, finally E3 week is over.
Right. Yes, exactly. Right.
So we were covering that for the site on there. I wasn't able to be fully invested with all this stuff this time, just with some different life events that got in the way, unfortunately. But I did get a chance to hop on the Ubisoft podcast with Kevin, and we talked about that, and I gave my little brief thoughts about the Xbox conference, if you call it 15 minutes brief. It was a good little rundown. It was a good chance to at least be a part of the E3 coverage for the week. And of course, we have the State of the Xbox Empire over there that I've launched since we last talked. And it's a monthly show focused on Xbox, not news, but just history, talking about things like we've talked about exclusives that they have on there. We always have our first our first Xbox experience that we talk about on there for new guests, and just talking a little bit about the platform in broad terms. That's kind of a timeless thing. So it's not tied to news or current events, but it's just kind of timeless. You can listen to it whenever you want to.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I'm going to make a confession here. I started with the Xbox when it came out. I mean, I've been on other consoles, obviously. I started with the Atari 2600, the NES, Super NES, on and on and on. But I had an original Xbox, and I loved it to death. I got the 360, but for some reason, it was the Xbox One's presser when they talked about the whole thing and what it was going to be, and the always online and the TV shows, and we're going to not talk about games. And the PS4 just looked fantastic. And I've not touched an Xbox this generation. I don't have one. Now, that being said, I'm not a hater. It's just more of the exclusives that I like are on PlayStation. But I was sitting at E3 at the press conferences in Nashville, and I watched the Xbox, and I went, maybe I got the itch. I've got an itch just a little bit. I'm considering selling my GameCube and a number of games that I have to basically fund a purchase of an Xbox One S. Mm-hmm. Because there's a few things that looked really good that I can't play on PlayStation, and it also kind of is that thing where I feel bad maybe a little bit because I don't have this generation's Xbox, and I've kind of held out for so long when Xbox really kind of brought me back into gaming in college, because I think I was still rocking a N64 at the time, and then the friggin' Xbox came out with the big old Duke controllers, and Halo Combat Evolved. I mean, that's a lot of people's entry into the Xbox world. But so yeah, I've got an itch. I may scratch it. I may pull the trigger on an Xbox One S. But I'm undecided. I'm on the fence. So maybe later you'll have to convince me why I need to come back to the throng.
Well, if you do decide to do it, it's a great time for you now with Game Pass. There's a lot of games you probably missed that are going to be on there for you.
Right, and that's what I was kind of looking at. So anyway, so a little rabbit trail down that route. But yeah, so we'll see. So I'm trying to think, man, to tell you everything that's been going on with me since last time we talked on a podcast would be a little too crazy. But here in the last week, my mom's back in town. She's back from the Philadelphia area. Her and her husband are looking for homes. They're thinking about trying to move out this way to be closer to my brother and I, and more importantly, the grandkids. We took the kids to go see Incredibles 2
I want to see that. That looks pretty good.
Oh, it was so good. And I got to tell you, the little Pixar short that runs in front of it called Dim Sum, the first time I saw that, I was kind of watching, it was kind of da-da-da, okay, this is cute, this is fine. And then a moment happened that just kind of made me really sit up and pay attention, because it was a very unexpected twist, and I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah.
But really unexpected twist, and I kind of went, whoa, okay. And it had me thinking about that short for almost the whole week until we went again, because my mom was in town and they wanted to see it. And I got to see it a second time, and while The Incredibles 2 is a fantastic, pardon the pun, incredible movie, that Dim Sum short was fantastic. I almost loved it just as much as I did the movie. So, yay to Pixar, they know what to do.
Looking it up right now to see if it's available to watch. Obviously, it's dim sum. I get a lot of food recipes when I Google that, but
right, exactly. Type in Pixar before that, and that'll probably help some. Because my mom's in town, I used my pit barrel cooker over the weekend, and I smoked up some pulled pork, some brisket, and then I made, for the first time ever, burnt ends. And I have to say that the burnt ends were my favorite thing that I made. And for the super friends that listen, you know that Stu always gives me a hard time because I talk about using the pit barrel cooker, or as he calls it, the potbelly cooker. And he never gets any of this. Well, I brought him over some of the meat yesterday and dropped it off at his house. So he did get to partake.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, and speaking of Stu, he's not here this week. He had a family thing that kind of came up at the last minute that he needs to attend to, and so he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, and then he's got some work stuff tomorrow, so we just couldn't really kind of make that work in our schedule. And then next week, he's going to be out on vacation with a much-deserved break. So Nathan was so kind to jump in and volunteer to fill the gap this week. So Nathan, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, no problem. I saw the bat signal in the sky, and I just had to answer the call.
That's right. That is right. So let's kind of do like we always do. Let's get into the Rebel Intelligence, and let's kick it off. What do you say?
Sounds good. By the way, I did find the short online to watch.
Oh,
it's actually called Bao, B-A-O.
I think that's the Chinese or the Japanese version. I think it's subtitled Dim Sum in English.
Oh, could be. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I'll report back later.
Okay, yeah. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, we are into Rebel Intelligence. Nathan, what do you have for me this week?
All right. So first off, there's been a little back and forth in the we'll call it the cinematic world, with the 20th Century Fox was planning to sell itself. That sounds weird, but they were planning to go and sell, and
they were prostituting themselves. Yes.
Yes. There's something that needs to be taken care of there, but yeah. So there was a couple people bidding for the sell or the purchasing of 20th Century Fox. Number one, everybody on the Geeks world, our world, the Fortress world, we were looking forward to Disney possibly getting the opportunity to own them, because obviously we know that Marvel, the original Marvel movies that I call them the originals, like, you know, the first X-Men,
Fantastic
Blade,
Four, X-Men.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those, they were under the Fox banner, and there's legalities that make them always own them, and that they couldn't be part of the cinematic universe that we see today with Iron Man, Captain America, right, the Avengers. And we always wanted to see, at least I did, I always wanted to see the X-Men pop up in those movies, you know, Wolverine, Professor X, somebody. And now we're getting closer to that being a possibility, because Disney's plan to buy them was thwarted for a little while by a little company called Comcast. Now, my theory is that Comcast wanted to come in here and say, hey, we're going to buy this, we're going to take all this stuff, but we want to be partners with you. You guys can make these movies, but we want the money. That's what my thing was, that I figured that they would be doing, because there's not much that they're going to be able to be doing with this. They'll maybe open up their own wing of movies and things like that, but Comcast owning it just never sat well with me anyway, because Comcast, I never had good experiences. Let's just say that.
Okay.
So, we now, though, have an accepted deal between Fox and Disney for about $70 billion. Billion with a bill. $70 billion for 20th Century Fox to Disney. That's
crazy, right?
That is really crazy. I can't recall what Lucas sold Lucasfilm for back in the day.
That was $4 billion.
$4 billion, okay.
Yep.
So I mean, this is 66 more billion dollars than that sell. I mean, granted, you get a lot more than just the Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies and that pantheon, but wow, that is a ton of money, right? I mean, this essentially, I think, also gives them the Fox broadcasting channels, except for the Fox Sports networks. I think that's excluded.
I think news and sports are the only two things that don't come along. But like part of this also is like the Sky Network, which is really big in Europe. They get like basically a massive controlling share of that. It also gives them because Fox is a part owner in Hulu, and Disney's a part owner in Hulu. And so by Disney getting that, now Disney's going to become the majority stockholder of Hulu as well. So that gives them greater leverage. It is a lot more than just like the Marvel movie franchise rights and whatnot. But here's the interesting thing. And I don't know if you know this, but basically Bob Iger at Disney and Brian Roberts at Comcast, they're kind of like mortal enemies. And basically, I think acquiring Fox for Comcast makes sense in if you're looking at they're going to acquire Sky over, the Sky network over in Europe, and they're going to get a bigger control of Hulu and some of these other things, less I think on the movie side. Like that kind of makes sense. But a lot of people speculated it was just Brian Roberts' way of just trying to stick it to Bob Iger because they basically came in with an all cash offer, which, I mean, you got to look at that, right? Because Disney was saying, hey, we're going to give you, basically it was like 23% of Disney stock. So, it's just back and forth. And, there's the business side of it. But here's what I'm interested in the most. And I know this sounds so dumb, but this is the fanboy in me. When Lucasfilm sold for $4 billion, which was 66 less, they did not sell the rights to the original Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4. Those rights in perpetuity through all time and space and reality would stay with Fox as long as Fox was a thing and wasn't owned by anyone else. So that would always thwart the plans that Disney could have of re-releasing a box set with all the originals and all the original untouched versions of those films, which I always pray we get a Blu-ray version of. But now, since Disney's going to own Fox, now Disney is actually going to own all of that again. And so Disney will be free to, stamp a new cover art on a box and sell it again and make more money.
So, I mean, there's always A New Hope / Star Wars, the 77 movie, that is part of this deal, which is really cool what they're actually going to be able to do with that. And if we ever do get that re-release of a theatrical version that's just been, remastered, not remade or anything else, just remastered.
No. Cleaned up.
Cleaned up, yes. Make it look shiny and new. That'd be fantastic. I mean, but look at what else did they get with this deal, right? You get The Simpsons. You get the Terminator movies. You get a lot of stuff that, I mean, with Terminator, there's a portion of Universal that has that Terminator part, but that's part of Fox, I believe.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure. But there's a lot of great shows like Firefly and stuff like that, which are now, it's canceled, but you never know. Maybe the Brown Coats can make a return.
Oh, Nathan, you can't bring up Firefly. That just kills me. Oh, yeah, I'm with you though. Yeah, they got a lot of good TV, a lot of back sourced, or back material that they can, bring back and do stuff with. There's a lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff there. But I'm happy. I think Disney's a natural fit. I think it's a better fit than Comcast, if I'm just being perfectly honest. And I think from the geek side, from the nerd side of things, right now, Disney, as far as the MCU, they know what to do with these movies. They've taken lesser known comic book characters like Ant-Man. Ant-Man's not the Captain America. He's not the Spider-Man, the Iron Man, the Hulk, right? He's a B or a C level type of thing. But that first movie was really, really great. And I know that they're saying that the reviews for Ant-Man and the Wasp are starting to come in, and it's looking really promising. Like, it's looking really, really good. And so, if they can take minor characters and make really quality films that people love, what's going to happen if Disney can get their hands on the Fantastic Four, get their hands on the freaking X-Men? I mean, I'm hoping that Phase 4 gets the X-Men in there and we start getting crossovers and Avengers versus X-Men. I mean, the sky is limitless on this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if, even though I hate to say it, that the current MCU that we know kind of winds down and ends and they relaunch it with a new series that includes everybody. Because now they'll have the rights to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that, but I agree. They've got to find a way now to say, hey, now we're going to introduce this concept of mutants into the world. Because they kind of did a little bit with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but they couldn't call them mutants because that word and that exclusivity belonged to Fox. Well, not anymore. So they're gonna have to figure a way to introduce that and kind of make that happen. But there's other things like Deadpool. Like, what's Disney gonna do with Deadpool? Because those movies are making money. And Disney likes money, but Deadpool's not exactly the typical type of superhero movie that, Marvel and Disney are, known for making currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of questions about what's going to happen. That's why I kind of think they may get to a point where they say, okay, we've gathered all the people together. Let's just go ahead and relaunch it, with a new cast of characters. Because, I mean, you got to recast everybody eventually anyway. If they do a clean break, a planned break like that, that might make sense. The only outlier is going to be Spider-Man at that point, where he's with Sony still in a way. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Great Mouse starts looking Sony's way.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. I mean, I know they were trying to get, Spidey alone, but we will have to see what happens. Mm-hmm. Speaking of kind of Disney and the big merger and all this other stuff's going on, we've got some recent news in the Star Wars universe, haven't we?
Yes and no. So there are multiple reports that the Star Wars standalone movies have been put on quote-unquote hold. Now, that was being, reported upon earlier in the week, and it was a big hubbub. But then there were updates and other follow-ups from Lucasfilm that said that's not true, that there's still multiple Star Wars films currently in development that have not been officially announced. So what that means is they were, as far as we are aware, the announced movies, they were working on a Boba Fett movie that was announced like the day that Solo opened. And right. That's, to my knowledge, the only standalone movie that was officially announced. Now, there were rumors of an Obi-Wan standalone movie, which I would love. There were rumors of a Mos Eisley movie that was centered around that cantina, which might work. I'm not sure. But there were rumors along those lines about other standalone movies that were in development. However, it seems to be that maybe the studio has put things on pause, possibly, just trying to re-examine things. There's definitely, where there's smoke, there's fire, you know what I'm saying? So where there's announcements like this, or not announcements, but news articles that come out like this, it usually means that there's something behind those words. Whether that means there's a shakeup coming for Lucasfilm because of this huge fan backlash for everything. And you've heard about the remake, The Last Jedi petition, I'm sure, that's been going around. It's ridiculous right now.
So dumb. So dumb.
But I think that maybe with the lackluster box office performance of Solo, which, by the way, Solo was a fine film. It was fine. It wasn't great. It was good. It wasn't bad. It was fine. But, a lot of people are like, they didn't go to see Solo because they didn't want it. Or they just, were boycotting it for one stupid reason or another. This is backfiring on some of those fans, because it seems that if this is true, and these rumors are true that these movies are being put on indefinite hold, that the movies that we would want as fans are not going to come. We're not going to get a standalone Bounty Hunter film or a standalone Obi-Wan film. It seems to be the mouse is saying, if you guys don't like one thing, you're not going to get anything. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I don't like the whole, hey, let's go and protest and not show up idea. Because you got to remember, I'm of an age where 1983 was the last Star Wars movie we had for the next 16 years. And we wanted more. We wanted more Star Wars. We wanted it so bad. And then we got what we asked for, and what we got was not what we really wanted. And it was rough. It was a dark time in the Empire. The rebels had scattered. It was miserable. It was just horrible. It was not what we wanted. We wanted more of what we had with the original trilogy, and instead we got the prequels. And it wasn't great. And now we're at this part where, Star Wars is riding high, man. The Force Awakens was a great movie, and that was just, phenomenal. And then Rogue One comes out and it's phenomenal. It's like, yes, we're going to start getting quality Star Wars right, left, and center. And then The Last Jedi came out, and I had some issues with The Last Jedi. I've made no bones about it, but still, overall, it's a decent Star Wars film. It's not as bad as the prequels. And then people are like, this whole idea of like, well, let's boycott. Let's, show them we're not going to, see just any old schlock that they slap the Star Wars label on. Well, the problem is that, one bad film or a bad film and a mediocre film, or however you want to look at them, whatever you classify, isn't indicative of their whole overall plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really shoot yourself in the foot. And I want to see an Obi-Wan movie. I think there's some really cool stuff that they could explore there.
Mm-hmm.
If they do it right. Similar to Rogue One, right? You can tell a story that fits in but doesn't feel like you're just trying to like fill in a bunch of backstory, because we got Obi-Wan in the prequels. So we don't need to see Obi-Wan, the young days, with Qui-Gon Jinn again and, how he was discovered. We don't need that. We want to see what he did between dropping off Luke on Tatooine and what happens when we see him in A New Hope. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things. I mean, Order 66 is still going on. You got the whole Darth Maul stuff. I mean, you could have a Vengeance tale there. I mean, there's lots of stuff. So I don't know. My hope, Nathan, my hope is this. We get episode 9. We wrap up the Skywalker saga, right? Let's put a bow on it. Let's put it to bed and let's move on. My hope is they move on, and the next 3 that's being done by Rian Johnson, they go and they tell something like Knights of the Old Republic. They take that video game, that kind of an idea, and they make a movie series based on that. Mm-hmm. So we can jump far enough back in time where we can still have Sith and Jedi, and we can have great stories, but we're not tied into existing canon, and we can have all new adventures. That's what I want to see.
The Old Republic. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. I mean, that time period, 4,000 or 5,000 years before all this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. You do that, then it's easy to make standalone movies, because you could make standalone movies based off characters and spin-offs from that stuff. And it's not like hey, we have to figure out how we show the Kessel Run, and hey, we have to figure out how we show Han getting the Millennium Falcon. Hey, we have to show, it's not, we have to do a lot of fan service. They can have the freedom to kind of go wherever they want to go. But
yeah, I agree.
Will it happen? I don't know. We'll have to see. So I've got something for you. This is interesting news. I feel like this is now becoming a weekly column for us. It's not, but it kind of feels that way. MoviePass. I'm a subscriber to MoviePass. I've had it pretty much since they dropped it to the $10 a month subscription. MoviePass is getting frustrating because they keep moving the goalposts on us here. Mm-hmm. Originally, it was you go see a movie once a day. You can see a movie. You can repeat a movie. It's not going to be a big deal, whatever. Then all of a sudden it's, hey, you can't repeat movies. And then it's, well, we're going to offer you the ability to only go see, 4 a month if you buy this subscription. And they keep changing things right, left, and center. And now they're doing this thing where they're going to introduce surge pricing. So basically, if you want to go see, let's say the latest Marvel movie on the weekend it releases, you're going to have to pay extra money on top of the MoviePass fee that you've already paid to go see that. And apparently this is only going to roll out to people that are paying on a month-by-month basis, not the annual subscribers. But still, it's not a good move. It screams to me that they're bleeding money and they're trying to find any way to kind of boost their ability to bring in cash, mm-hmm. especially considering AMC has just, announced their little plan. I don't know. Are you a MoviePass guy? You said you haven't used it, correct?
I am not a MoviePass subscriber. However,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's a cool idea. I don't know how they make money off of this, to be honest. Sure, they can sell your movie-going habits and that data, but I don't feel like that data is worth as much as they're thinking it should be. So that's probably why you're seeing this surge pricing and things like that happen. I feel like it's a cool idea and concept. Like paying $10 to go see unlimited movies in the theater per month. That's a pretty great deal if you want to go see movies, in a month, or if you go a lot to the theater. Like when I was younger, I would have done this for sure because I loved going to movie theaters for then. I still love it, but I don't go as often. I may not even go once a month. So it's an interesting concept, Movie Pass, but the fact that they have to now add some surge pricing as it is to different movies, it makes sense because there's the need there to recoup some extra cost. And for us as moviegoers to be able to see, movies filmed in an IMAX camera, things like that, to make it worth the while to have IMAX theaters. Those need to be properly compensated, though, to continue on thriving. So as much as this may be a disruption, I also think that it's not necessarily going to sustain itself. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the model's an interesting model. Get as many people as you can. It's the whole gym, the Globo gym, right? You get a bunch of people in for $10 a month. People stop coming. They stop using it. You're collecting money for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the idea. And they say they got to get to 5 million, and they're at 3 million users right now. But AMC just launched their own version of kind of Movie Pass. It's only for AMC, but you get to go to 3 movies a week, and you can repeat movies, which is something Movie Pass used to do. It's $20, so it's double the cost, but it doesn't limit you on the 3D or the IMAX. And AMC says that they can do this and be profitable doing this right out of the gate. And Movie Pass is, they're just trying to get to that magic number where they start breaking even. And, I look at it and I say, hey, I hope they're in it for the long run, because I think if they can get as many people as possible, like let's say they get up to the 10 million number and now they're making money, I think they can go back to the way they used to do things with see as many movies as you want, see the movies over and over again, and not have to do the surge pricing. But I feel like right now the surge pricing is a reactionary measure to what AMC has done, and they're just trying to hold out, hoping that they can break even and get the numbers that they need by the end of the year. If they don't, I don't know that the company's going to last much past this year if they don't hit that number. I think they're going to struggle because they're bleeding money every month and they need it. It's a cool idea. It really is. I like the idea, but someone's got to find a way to make it work. So
I agree with that. It's if they don't have a good sustainable, uptick in sales with this, they've probably already plateaued and they're probably losing subscribers now. I feel like you said, if they don't, they're probably not going to last the rest of the year.
No, probably not. What else do you got for me this week?
So, real briefly, there was an interesting, for those of you who are DC fans and are keeping up with the current run of comics, spoiler alert, spoiler warning.
Here we go.
For Batman number 48, the current run. So, just wanted to let this sink in. I will talk on this no longer than 30 seconds, and I will start that timer in just a second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to start a timer here, just so nobody has to worry.
I wish I had the Jeopardy music queued up. That would have been perfect.
Would be great. All right, so 30 seconds starting now. So here's the spoiler. Batman number 48, the Batwoman and Catwoman were getting married, and the Joker wants to give Batman the best gift that he possibly can, and that is to kill Catwoman. And in doing so, Catwoman also decides to, nope, I'm going to slit your neck, and now the Joker will die as well. So, in effect, the cliffhanger is Catwoman could be dying, but Joker is definitely dying. He's bleeding out from his neck. And that's time. 29 seconds, 0.77.
Wow. I don't know how I feel about this. Not so much the spoiler, but I mean, let's be honest. In comics, no death is a permanent death, right?
Right.
But, two big rogues going down at the same time, potentially? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Batman needs the Joker. That's all there is to it.
That's I like that. Good way to put it.
Yeah.
And moving on from that, because I mean you can't really say much more without being spoilery. We've already passed our 30-second time. We did get something interesting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe world. We all knew that they've been working on a new Spider-Man movie.
What?
Even though I know the events of the Avengers are, questioning how this could happen. Wink, wink, nod, nod. However, Tom Holland, in the way that they're basically Marvel or Disney is playing up this joke that is continuing just to be this meme now of Tom Holland
blowing
accidentally
everything,
announcing things. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was legitimate at one point, and he ever since then has just been living this up with he's been doing these announcements, which is great. So he has told us just recently the name of the next Spider-Man movie. Do you want to take a stab at what it is?
It's gonna be this Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Close. It is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, they just recently announced this, and I'm not as familiar with what that title actually means. When it was Homecoming, I knew kind of briefly what that whole storyline may entail. But with Far From Home, I haven't had a chance to actually look through my Spider-Man comics to see if I have an arc that's similar to this. So I'll be curious to see what that is.
I heard that they're doing a lot of filming over in London for this film, and so I think it's going to have Spidey out and about and not necessarily in New York a lot of the movie. Mm-hmm. From what I've gathered. So I guess my question is, right, Spider-Man's a huge kind of staple in the comic book world of being in New York City, because that's his neighborhood, and he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So if they're gonna have him in jelly old England or wherever they're gonna actually have the film, what would compel Spider-Man, who's a teenager, mind you, in the films, to be over there? There's got to be some sort of compelling reason for him to be not at home, not with Aunt May. I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton in the Marvel universe that I can think of that takes place in London. Most everything is always centralized in New York City or space.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what draws them out far from home.
Yeah. Very nice tie-in, by the way. I loved Homecoming so much. I'm glad that Spidey's back in the MCU, and I loved Homecoming, and I think that this next one's going to be just as good. I mean, I don't know why they would change the formula they've got going, but we'll have to see. Speaking of formulas and movies that seem to follow a formula, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom just came out. You said you saw it just today, right?
Mm-hmm. This morning.
You saw it this morning. So apparently it made $148 million, that's million with an M, over the opening weekend. Let me ask you this. You saw the movie. Would you guess that the movie, after seeing it, would have that big of an opening? Because my guess was I thought it would have came in maybe 120, 130 million. I didn't think it would have as big of a opening as it is. And then, of course, when you include the worldwide, it's already at 700 million worldwide.
Right. So I was kind of thinking that this would be around, I was thinking more 130 range for what they would bring in for the opening weekend, because the trailer, the latest trailer showed too much of the movie, and it kind of ruined it and spoiled it in a way that I felt like before I even went into this, I didn't even know if I would go see this movie in the theater. I was talked into go seeing it with some buddies, but I didn't even know if I was going to go see this movie in the theater because I felt like I knew the entire story. And it did not look enticing to me from the trailers. It just looked like it was a cash grab, which that's debatable, I suppose.
Is it a cash grab?
My heart says yes.
That's okay. I mean, honest opinions are appreciated.
So as far as that goes, because if you compare this to Jurassic World, I think Jurassic World in its opening weekend did about 200 million. And that was the Jurassic World was to Jurassic Park as The Force Awakens was to Star Wars.
Gotcha.
So I mean, you had that kind of retelling, new story time or storylines with new people, and this movie just kind of felt like it jumped the Raptor a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. So it's I can't recommend going to the movie theater and watching this unless you already have Movie Pass and it's not going to cost you anything. Just go ahead.
That's how I'm going to see it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it got 148 million. To be honest, it's just this is going to drop off hard for week 2. I guarantee it for sure.
Yeah. So my thing was, I haven't seen the latest trailer, which kind of makes me happy because I kind of want to see this at Movie Pass it for sure. But I kind of want to see it because I want to see if it's what I think it's going to be. But I know when they showed the first trailer, maybe the teaser trailer, that it seemed like the whole concept of the movie was that, there's this big, they show the volcano exploding, and it was kind of like hey, we're going to save the dinosaurs, kind of almost what I called a PETA type of a storyline. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, dinosaurs are, real people too. We've got to go save them because, they have souls, blah, blah, blah. That kind of mentality. And I remember sitting and watching that trailer and I went, what? That's got to be the dumbest possible thing that could be advocated for. There's a reason these things are extinct. These things don't care. They don't, they're just going to kill everything. Mm-hmm. They set it up perfectly in the first Jurassic Park that, you cannot introduce an extinct species back into the modern world without having real repercussions. They freaking put that out there in like 1993. And this whole, as I called it, PETA Save the Dinosaurs storyline from that first trailer really had me kind of turned off. And then I feel like the last maybe 2 trailers that came out before the last one seem to not touch on that at all. How much of the movie is PETA, a PETA-inspired type of we have to save the dinosaurs? Is that pretty much the whole movie? Dang it, it is. I can just tell by your hesitation.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it. I mean, if you saw the second trailer, it spells this whole thing out, or this latest trailer, it spells the whole thing out for you. So it is not as much as PETA saves the world as you think it may be.
Okay.
But it comes off with that intent at the beginning, if that's anything.
Is Jeff Goldblum at least good in the movie?
He's fine. He's literally just sitting in a room the whole movie. So.
Oh, okay. Dang.
You basically, if you see the trailers, you've seen what he does.
Oh, okay. I was hoping Dr. Ian Malcolm gets in there and mixes it up again.
Oh no, he's very much retired. I think at this point, he finds a seat.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll have to talk with you later because I am going to go see it. More, I think, of morbid curiosity than anything, but we'll have to take a look. That was the last thing I had in Rebel Intelligence. Did you have anything else in Rebel Intelligence, Nathan?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, let's move on. So last week, Stu and I had a discussion, Nathan. We, it was shortly after Father's Day, and so we talked about fathers. In nerd and pop culture, we kind of talked also about the fathers that inspired us, kind of helped shape our lives, who made us who we are. And so we asked our super friends of the show to let down your guard a little bit, let us in and tell us, who were some of the people, the fathers or father figures that may have inspired you, maybe encouraged your nerdiness, maybe encouraged, what you're doing in your career, made you into who you are. And so we got a few responses, and so we're going to read those right now. And we're going to start like we always do over with our email. And we're going to go to Peter Christensen. And he says, "Dear nerds," he says, "Gentlemen, I accept your endorsement." He says, "Stu, I think you meant that Spencer's hat was embossed, not embezzled, and that is exactly what he meant, Peter. He says, for the weekly Movie Pass column, like I said, we've talked about this a little bit. I was excited but not surprised by AMC's announcement of their unlimited plan. $20 a month, 3 movies a week you can rewatch. I've said since I first heard about Movie Pass that it would only work if they got a cut of the concessions, which theaters had no incentive to share. I think this will work out great for AMC, and when our year's subscription to Movie Pass expires, or they go out of business, we'll sign up with AMC. Which I actually kind of looked into the AMC thing, and I like it, but there's only 3 AMCs in the state. However, one of them happens to be 10 minutes from my house. So, maybe.
Is it a good theater?
It's a really good theater. It's you get assigned seating, so you pick your seating ahead of time, and it's got the recliner chairs with the little automatic, button you push and it lifts up your feet and whatnot. It's nice. It's a nice theater. Peter goes on to say, I really enjoyed Incredibles 2. In most years, it would have been the best superhero movie of the year, but Black Panther and Infinity War are stiff competition. I don't know if it meets the absurdly high expectations, but it's really excellent, and I look forward to rewatching it multiple times. And then he says, scorecard, you guys are sneaky. I barely got any of them. Last week we tried to mask who our picks for the fathers we liked were by giving kind of vague clues, and Stu just smoked me. He says, fathers are a complicated topic for me. Mine passed away when I was a baby, so there's an absence, but no sense of loss. I get to pick and choose my own way to be a father. One quote that has always inspired me from Stanley Kubrick's daughter after he died. He was a very affectionate dad who could solve all your problems, and when he died, our protective umbrella was gone. Thank you, Peter. I really like that he, because Peter said, like he said, he doesn't, didn't have a father in pretty much, his entire life, that he gets to choose his own way. And so he's not necessarily tied into, the way that he was raised or seen things, and is able to kind of make that up. And that's, I like that. I think that's good. Be your own man and, make your own choices on how you want to parent. Going over to Twitter, Nerdish67 at dspin67 says, my cousin Gregory Johnson. He was not only a cousin, he was a big brother, father figure, a mentor, and many other things. He taught me many things from electronics, computers, to picking out a suit. He kept me from going down the wrong path. He was the best man at my wedding. I love that response. And I'll tell you why. There's a website that I really like called The Art of Manliness. And on there, you get these advice columns on here's how you should pick out the best suit, or here's how you should do this, or here's how to be a good uncle or a good brother or whatever. And a lot of it's skill based. A lot of it's, kind of self-help stuff. This is how you should go into a room and, make eye contact with people and whatnot. Or, this is how you should, do this or purchase a car or whatnot. So it's a lot of great advice, and it's all based on being a better father, better husband, better man. But I like that he says that his cousin taught him things, taught him computers, electronics, how to pick out a suit. It sounds like he was just solid advice, and he was just literally trying to give him every bit of steering in the right direction that he possibly could. And I like that. So
that's great.
Good on you, Gregory Johnson. Those are all the responses we got this week. You guys can always reach us at all the usual places, which is our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at fortofnerd. We're on Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd. And you can always call in and leave a voicemail, and that number is 801-477-7687. And we will, read those. Nathan, we always ask our super friends to give us a rating on iTunes to help us out. That there's some sort of metric. Do you know much about how Apple actually does this? Have you investigated it?
I mean, I haven't necessarily investigated per se, but a typical algorithm would think that if the person is getting reviews or the podcast rather, is getting reviews, it would move up on their index because, hey, there's traffic to this review site, and the higher the ratings, the higher the traffic and the more attention it gathers. So the algorithm would say, hey, to other people that like similar shows, check this out.
And see, just right there, that makes a lot of sense. So, Super Friends, if you listen to the show, you like the show, go rate us on iTunes. Give us that 5-star rating, the 2 thumbs up, the 17 little stars, whatever it may be. Make it happen. Tell your friends about the show, and get them to rate it too, because somehow it's going to help us, and one day we're going to rule the world as the Fortress of Nerditude. I don't know how, but it all starts with iTunes reviews, I promise.
It's true. I've heard it. I've read it on the internet.
I mean, it's got to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Nathan, let me ask you a question. You... a while back, I don't even remember what number, but a while back ago on your podcast, That's Entertaining, you had Gabe Patillo on, and you talked about Final Fantasy VII.
I did.
And I remember that episode well because I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII nerd. Refresh my memory. What is your level of involvement with Final Fantasy VII? What is your love level with this thing?
We got married.
Ooh, so you took it all the way.
We took it all the way. Final Fantasy VII was one of the first games that I played, along with, it was in that same time frame of Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation, that really, the story hit me, and I realized that video games could be more than just a guy jumping on toads. And it actually had something that was involving different characters and got you to think and feel on an emotional level, and was really enthralling. And it showed character development. It showed really just a way to tell a story, and with music and the visuals and everything was impressive for me for Final Fantasy VII. And to this day, it's still my favorite Final Fantasy game for sure. I mean, I love 15. 15's great, but 7. The story of Cloud with Sephiroth and Aerith and Tifa and Barrett, Red 13, Kate Sith, Yuffie, Vincent, the whole team. It's fun. It's great. I love that game.
You forgot Sid, man. You forgot Sid.
Sid's in everything, though. Yeah. He's when you say Final Fantasy, you say Sid.
That's true. That is true. So I love Final Fantasy VII. Huge fan. Like you, it was, for me, one of my it's my favorite Final Fantasy. Although 10 if 10's up there, I've got a special place in my heart for 10 as well. But Final Fantasy VII was just revolutionary. It was groundbreaking, and I don't think this is too much hyperbole, but it's probably the most beloved Final Fantasy game by fans of the series. And we had some news back in old 2015. E3 rolls around and they announce a remake for Final Fantasy VII. I don't remember where I was at necessarily, but I remember what I did. I started screaming with joy like I was a 7-year-old schoolgirl. I was excited. I was extremely excited. Now, if you're not a fan or you don't know this, I said that right. It was announced in 2015. It's now 2018. What was your expectation for E3 this year with Square Enix actually having a show? Were you expecting to see Final Fantasy VII game footage or a trailer or anything?
I hoped that there would be some mention, at least, of it. Whether or not it be just showing us, hey, here's what the game engine is looking like in development, and here's what some more character models, or here's another cinematic, cutscene. I was hoping for something, like at least a minute on stage. I would have been happy. But obviously, we did not get anything.
No.
It was sad.
So sad. And I just kept looking at it saying, they haven't done anything at E3 in 3 years. we haven't seen anything else about Final Fantasy VII. If you're going to make an announcement, you're going to hold a press conference because this is going to be big, big, big news. And then nothing. And that, for me, was a massive letdown for E3 this year. Now, so there's, I think that was a letdown for a lot of people, if I'm just being honest. I think that a lot of people probably went through what you and I went through, and like, show us something, give us something. Well, now the director of Final Fantasy VII, Tetsuya Nomura, has come out and said basically that we announced Final Fantasy VII way too early. Basically said, like, we should have, not said anything. We came out of the gate too quick on this thing. But they kind of felt like that people inside the industry were talking about it, so they kind of wanted to get out ahead of the news before someone else broke the news. And I'm glad that we've got at least some news on it, but this doesn't make me feel any better. Like, I'm not happy about this. I mean, it's glad to hear, he said something, but I mean, does that make you feel good? I mean, does that give you any sense of, like, okay, at least we hear something about it?
I mean, it doesn't make me feel any better or worse, to be honest. It just is. Because we already know that they're working on it. We already know that as long as they didn't say it's canceled, I'm happy, So I was anticipating that, if they announced something, we would have some sort of progress update. But the fact that all that was officially said was like, yeah, we just announced it too early. It's still coming. It just seems to be a bit of noise at this point. I would rather they just focus on working on the product than telling us anything about it. If there's nothing to tell, to be quite honest, if they just go radio dark until they have something to tell or a release date, I'd be fine with it. But I would prefer that they just, stick to whatever they decide to do. You know what I mean? Don't be wishy-washy. If you come out in 2015 and you announce this date and you say it's going to be episodic and it's going to be all this stuff and we're already working on it now, and then the director finds out that he's going to do it the day of the conference, that doesn't usually go well. And I know that there's been a lot of shakeups in that side of the house too, but I just want them to say, sure, we're still working on it. If they would have said that on the E3 stage without anything, that's fine. I would have been happy with just a little bit of a progress update, like, hey, we're still hard at work on Final Fantasy VII Remake. We know you guys are excited. Please stay tuned for more details in the coming, years, most likely.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think they needed to do something. Now, this is interesting for me because Square Enix, Nomura is coming out and saying we announced this too early. And then there is another franchise that Square Enix has put out that I love, which is Kingdom Hearts. And Kingdom Hearts, I loved that first game. I love the second game. Some of the other smaller titles I've kind of skipped. I've just kind of sticked with the big main titles. But I remember that Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013. And we finally just got a release date this E3 for it. And it's coming out like January, I think 29th, 2019. So like end of January this upcoming year. And that's like 6 years since when it was announced. And my wife asked me, she keeps asking me, she's like, when's the next Kingdom Hearts game coming out? Because she's watched me play the other two. She wants to watch me play this one, and she thinks the boys will get a big kick out of watching it. But it's been 6 years. That's too long of a time in my opinion. Because here's the thing: if you announce something early, what risk do you run?
If you announce it early, what risk do you run?
Yeah, what risk do you run if you announce it early?
So you get the hype when you announce it.
Sure.
And the risk that you run is that you have that initial hype. People want to go pre-order it or buy it that day. And after a while, you lose that share. You lose people getting hyped or excited, and then it's just an expectation. And then it just becomes a disappointment in their minds when they don't hear about it. So the risk is that if you announce too early and there's nothing to share in a normal cadence, that you're going to have disappointment. Even though the product itself may not be disappointing, you're going to have that aura that surrounds it.
Yeah, I also think a risk of announcing things too early is, besides like, the fact that you're going to get everyone hyped up about it and, whatnot, is that I think if you announce too early, usually it's, sometimes these games aren't even like fully like nailed down on like what the story is going to be, or like maybe what game engine is going to be used, or, in the film side of things, like, what the plot is going to be. And depending on how it's announced or the way it's, kind of shown off, then it can dictate like some of the creative process into how the game or the movie is actually put together, because they feel like, well, they showed something like this to the trailer, or when they announced it, they said, we're going to be doing this. So now we're tied into having to do that.
Well, just think of this too. So this is kind of becoming Square's MO.
A little bit, yeah.
Final Fantasy 15 was my game of the year in, was it 2015 that came out, or was that 2016? I think it was 2016.
2016.
But that was announced 10 years earlier as Final Fantasy 13 Versus in 2006. So it took 10 years for us to finally get the realization of that game, which obviously became a different title in the meantime. But, I mean, that was 10 years. Final Fantasy 7, we're now at year 3, so we know that we might have 7 more years to go, unfortunately, before we see it.
But that kills me.
But my thought is that, so they missed their opportunity already in last year, in 2017, as the 20th year anniversary of Final Fantasy 7. So I think we're now waiting until the 25th anniversary to get this.
I hate that idea, but I think you're probably right, if I'm just being perfectly honest. I also think that it's not going to come out for the PS4 generation. I think it's going to come out on the PS5. And whatever
that's
Xbox
definitely
calls
a possibility.
The next version.
Yeah. Especially if it does come out in, what would 4 years from now be, 2022? I mean, that's going to be a different console generation for sure.
So there's risks if you announce a game or you announce a movie too early. What's the opposite side of that? Because I understand that companies, they want to get ahead of the news. They want to start building hype. What's the risk of announcing it too late?
So if you announce it too late, you lose the opportunity to control the story. You lose the opportunity to guide people's thoughts about what the product is, because then people are reporting on rumors, and rumors run rampant when not in check. And so if you control that story and that narrative of when your product is going to be announced, and you have that ability to keep that announcement date secret or whatever you want to do, that's the perfect opportunity. But if you announce too late, then people are going to be like, hey, what are you guys working on? Someone's going to talk about it in a bar, and then all of a sudden some reporters are going to hear about it, and then it's going to be news, and then there's going to be leaks, and you can't control the news cycle that way, but you can if you announce it, which I believe is the reason why you'd want to make sure you do it earlier rather than later, and you never want to stay quiet.
Right. You always want to be able to at least control your own media.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this and I really wonder, in this case, a Final Fantasy VII remake, or Kingdom Hearts 3 for another example, or No Man's Sky, right? Because that was announced way early on. If they would have announced later, like what would have been gained by them, like waiting a year or two, like in this case, right? Final Fantasy VII, you might not be wrong. It may be 4 years away. They may hit the 25th anniversary. But what would they have gained by waiting a little bit? I mean, do you think the hype train would have been affected any different if they waited another year or 2 years before they announced it? Like if they would have announced it this year instead of 3 years ago?
I don't think that the hype train would have really been affected because, I mean, think of us Final Fantasy VII fans, right? We're going to be hyped no matter what when we get the official word that this is actually going to happen, whether it be in 20 2018 or 2015. Granted, the 2015 reveal was stacked with a whole bunch of other big reveals in that conference.
Right. Yep.
But the fact that they have just gone silent pretty much, and we're as fans just sitting here kind of wondering what's going on. Are we going to get any sort of trickle data? Is there a website that might get an update, or a Twitter account that we can follow for an update? It's just one of those things. I think CD Projekt Red announced Cyberpunk that same year officially.
Right.
And now we're starting to see the things turn on that and get some more details there. But I wish that they had a PR department, maybe, that knew how to keep the fans at least apprised of information that's relevant to the development cycle that they need to know. Granted, I mean, as fans, we don't need to know a lot. We want to be kept in the loop about the process that's actually taking place, and hopefully that it's still ongoing, and that we can kind of get an idea of when it's going to come out. I mean, nobody, I don't think, has purchased a Final Fantasy or a PlayStation or an Xbox in anticipation to play this game on that console. I think people are still waiting, to see at least if we get a date first. But it would be, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I bought my PlayStation 3 with the intent to play Final Fantasy 13 Versus.
Really?
So it was announced for PlayStation 3, and so I bought my PlayStation 3 thinking that I was going to play that game on it. So that's the reason why I bought a PlayStation 3, which obviously I ended up playing it on my Xbox One, which is completely different.
Right, exactly.
But, I mean, so I don't think there's many people that are like me that are just going to go buy it on a hope and a prayer. But they need to kind of at least let their fans know something.
Right, and I'm with you there. Like, you got to manage fan expectation, because I think for some of these titles, your diehard fans, your loyal fans, they're the people that are going to go out and flock and make the game a success or not. I mean, I remember we talked a little while ago about Cory Barlog, the director on God of War, and he gave this really emotional response to how well it started doing, because everyone flocked and went out, and it got such a high review, and then it started selling like gangbusters. And the appreciation, knowing that his game was a success, and all the kind of struggles that they went through, like, that matters. But like, he wanted to get a game out that the fans of the series, the diehards, were going to buy off on and love, because he knew that if he had them, that he'd be okay. And so I think managing fan expectations, when you have a delayed project or a project that's taking longer than anticipated, updates, some sort of information is a good thing. And I'm going to go over to the literary world for a minute. There's two authors that I really love right now. I mean, there's a lot that I love, but one is Patrick Rothfuss, who has written the Kingkiller Chronicles. He's written 2 books in a 3-book series, The Name of the Wind and A Wise Man's Fear. His 3rd book, called Doors of Stone, it's been about 7 years since he put out the 2nd book. And he doesn't give a lot of detail on what's happening, and he's kind of private on what's going on. And unfortunately, there's a portion of his fan base that have turned sour because they don't hear anything about it, and they become impatient. And let's be perfectly honest, people on the internet can kind of be rude anyway if they don't get what they want or feel they should have, and there's some entitlement there. But he doesn't say much, and so there's not a lot of great management of fan expectations there. Now, on the other side, a different author that I really love is Brandon Sanderson. And Sanderson writes some great books, but on his website, he actually has like a little progress bar where he says the big projects that he's working on. He'll say, like, I'm writing, book 3 of the Stormlight Archive, and he'll say that it's 25% of the way through its first draft. Or, this book is out for, editing, for, second pass on editing. And this book is in, the kind of the storyboarding, and this book is, going to the publishers now to be printed. And once a year, he gives what he calls this, I think, the State of Sanderson, where he updates every book series he's writing on, the current book, what the current plans are, kind of how far along things are, where things are going. And I think it's a really good balancing act of, he occasionally updates the website, but then once a year he gives a bunch of information on all the projects he's involved in. And I really enjoy that because I kind of get a little bit of information. I don't get a lot. Like, I don't hear, spoilers or plots or whatever, but I do get some information, say, oh, okay, this next book of his that I'm excited for is gone out to editing again, or is out to the beta readers and he's getting feedback. And it's something, right? It's some sort of tangible data that I can use to kind of manage my own expectations of when I should expect to see this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need more of that in the gaming industry, and maybe even in the movie industry with some of the bigger franchises. I don't know. What do you think about that?
So it's a tightrope to walk. I mean, you have most of in the gaming industry, you have your internal QA, which are your first people that are going to find the game, right? But they're all internal employees. The next step before you decide to release is mock reviews. So you pay freelancers to review your game for you that aren't affiliated with any sort of media outlet before it's too late to make changes. So you can kind of make an adjustment if needed from an external point of view. And they do the similar kind of things with movies. They have the test screening audiences and things like that. Granted, they're all small. They're very localized. I think they're mostly just in California. There's some in different states as well, but it's very localized to a specific area. But there are some aspects of this. However, I feel like you said, the guy, he's got his website and he updates that so people can know kind of what's happening with what's the update. When I think of books right now, George R.R. Martin has been writing his next book for forever, it seems, and
Winds of Winter.
Yeah, and I think he started writing it before or just as the show came on HBO, and now it's winding down the show, and he's a different man at this point, right? His experiences in life are now different, which would make his experiences that he writes about in the book different because those influences have changed. So it affects the integrity of the book by those external influences. Same can be said about movies or games too. So you want to make sure you're keeping the artistry pure as much as you can without diluting the content. And it's a very fine line to try to walk. So there's got to be an answer there somewhere that just helps us both out, the developers and the fans. But I think it just has to be within that PR department. I think you need a good PR department that keeps the fans engaged and in the loop and active. And if it's nothing more than just tweeting out fan art, like the BioWare accounts, I mean, they're phenomenal at interacting with their fans. I think that's what you got to have. That's what you need to do is work towards that, because your fans are those people that are creating that fan art and that are wanting to engage and see what other people are talking about and doing. And if you can keep that fire alive from that side of the house while the developers are working on their title and then be able to use that same PR department, that same account to inform the audience about what's happening next, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. You got to find a way to keep that fire, that hype train kind of stoked and going. And I think the problem is if you announce too early, you got to keep that going a long time, and it's really easy for that fire to kind of dim and die out. If you do too late, you don't have time to really kind of get a hold of your audience. So I'm going to make this the question of the week, and I'll ask you, and then I'll give my answer, and then we'll put this out to our super friends of the show. What should be the time frame? How far out before a project is going to be released? A book, a movie, a video game? How far out should it be announced, do you think, is that sweet spot to announce something, get the hype train rolling, gain traction and gain an audience? Where do you think that falls for you?
18 months.
man, you and I are like the same mind right now, because that's my response too. It's 18 months out.
Yeah, I think 18 months is about perfect for any sort of media like that, because it builds up that groundswell. It gets to the point where people can see things. You should have tangible product to be able to display at that point as well. And then you can gradually start to be able to trickle out some more information and data and concept art that you've already gone past, but trickle that out to people. Then be able to get the trailers and build up with that announcement and the pre-orders and everything else that you want to continue out to do. And finally release. 18 months is perfect.
I'm in total agreement with you. I think 18 months is the perfect time. But Super Friends, I want to hear from you. Get a hold of us on email, Twitter, Facebook, or the voicemail, and let us know, what do you think is the sweet spot for releasing an announcement about an upcoming game or movie or book or whatever in media. And let us know. We want to hear from you, and we will read your answers next week. Nathan, once again, thank you for jumping in. Tell the Super Friends all the different places and ways they can find you.
Well, again, it was a pleasure to join in and speak with you this evening, so I appreciate the opportunity to come into the Fortress once more. You can find me at Voiced by Nathan on Twitter. You can also find my podcast, That's Entertaining, at Entertaining Pod on Twitter. That's entertaining.net as well if you want to peruse the old archives. I'm over on PSVG, so you can go check out the PSVG Twitter account. I'm on there, as well as the PSVG Xbox Empire Twitter account. I'm the man behind the scenes there. And like I said, too, I host the monthly Xbox show over there, the State of the Xbox Empire. So keeping myself busy in that side of the house right now.
Well, sounds good. You are a busy, busy man. And couldn't think of anyone better to have on this week to fill in. And so once again, I appreciate your time and effort tonight and doing this for me.
No problem, good sir. My pleasure.
Super Friends, wherever you may be out there, remember, may the Force be with you, always.